Hi, my name's Dan Keane. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about Sonarworks Reference 4, a piece of room calibration software that corrects the frequency response of your room by doing a set of scans. And you buy a specific microphone for this, you stand in front of your speakers and you do various tests, and then on the other side you're supposed to have a very flat sounding room regardless of what speakers and what room you're in. Sounds too good to be true. These days, there's so much that you can invest in. When I first talk to people about what microphone did you get first, or what speakers should I buy next, or what plugin suite should I get, even though I haven't been in this industry for very long yet, I realised quite quickly that things have become more and more accessible in recent times. It's now possible to get your hands on really great quality microphones, really great speakers at much lower costs. And I know of lots of people whose first studio experiences were going to big studios because they were really the only way that you could get your music recorded. Now, my musical experience began when I was very young. I got a keyboard for Christmas when I was 2, and a piano, the family house piano, when I was 4, and then my parents bought me a violin when I was 5. So I've always had music in my life. But when I was younger, I guess every time I wanted to invest in a new piece of software or buy a new microphone or something, I'd have to go and ask my mum and say, look, can I please use all this money that I've just saved up to buy this microphone? And she'd say, okay, but is this the last thing on the wish list? And I'd say, to be honest, I don't think I could ever need anything else. Of course, a couple of months later, I'd say, well, actually, if I'm going to have that, I should probably get a second one, so I've got a stereo pair. And then if I get that, I should probably get some new cables, but I can't actually fit all of those microphones now into my interface, so I probably need to upgrade that at some point. The wish list never stops. So, should the Sonarworks Reference 4 be on your wish list for this year? Well, I'm here to answer that today. First of all, I'm not sponsored. This isn't a review unit. This is something that I bought quite a few months ago now and just wanted to give you my thoughts on. This is the Studio Edition with microphone, and this is the Education Edition. Now, I didn't really know what that meant at the time. Basically, you only get one license with the Education Edition. I think you get a couple or maybe 3 with the full version. The discount is quite significant, so I bought it as an Education Edition. But now that I have 2 computers, I realise that that's actually quite annoying because you have to sort of disable one license to start up another. So Sonarworks has 2 basic products. On one side, you have the Headphone Edition, and on the other, you have the more expensive Studio Edition. The difference between these is that the Studio Edition also has the Headphone Edition included in it. For people who don't have speakers and just want to have a flatter frequency response on the headphones they're listening to, I would recommend the Headphone Edition. It has hundreds of profiles of various headphone types, and I guess it's up to you just to check that your headphones are covered. So for me, I have a pair of these DT770 Pros by Beyerdynamics. They're included with that, and so I can use that while I'm referencing, while I'm monitoring, and in theory it is quote-unquote flat. With the Studio Edition, you're able to use a microphone. You don't have to use the one they provide, but they do recommend it. You can use a microphone to record the frequencies within your room, specifically with your speakers, and it sets up a custom profile based on what it's recorded. So in the box, you get an SPL microphone that looks like this. You don't have to use an SPL mic. This is something that's specifically used as a reference microphone because it's very sensitive to particular sounds. It says that you could use any microphone, and I guess if you just use something that had a very flat frequency response, you'd get a more realistic representation of what your room sounds like. But it does recommend specific microphones like these for when measuring your speakers. Okay, so let's just get started with measuring this room. I've got this measure software here. It says, welcome to Reference 4 Measure. Create a calibration profile for your speakers to make your studio sound more accurate. So if we click this, I now need to plug this in and I need to follow the various things, and I actually have to sort of check them off once they're all done. So some things to consider here. Phantom power, you have to have phantom power on your interface. Your input is not routed directly into your speaker output, so you need some way of being able to monitor sort of externally. And a single audio interface is used for mic input and output to speakers. And the audio interface sample rate is set to exactly 44.1K. Now, it's worth saying here that you don't have to have your interface at 44.1 for the whole time you use it. It's just for the setup process. Right, I'm going to move this camera out of the way and then I'll show you what it looks like. It's quite funny, really. Okay, so I've done everything here. Now, what's quite nice about this is that you have your own ID number. So I have to type this in now. In fact, it's this one here because it knows I've done it before. And what's interesting is this is the exact calibration profile of this exact microphone. So it's really quite accurate. And it will use that so that there isn't any bias there. And now I need to adjust the gain of this microphone. determine the distance. So this is quite clever. What it does is I need to hold the microphone here, and you actually have to hold the mic.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress.
Do the same for the right side.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress.
So I think that's actually about right. And now I need to locate my listening spot. So here we go. That looks about right. So as you can see, they're pretty self-explanatory, really. Now let's just have a look and see what profile it's created. Okay, so there we go. This is the frequency response of the room that it has picked up. You can see there are big drops here, nearly 6 dB drop at 75 Hertz, and then boosting at almost 5 dB at 170, and then back down again here to 4 dB. Now the thing is, this is what my room sounds like. There's no escaping that. That's the kind of dynamic of having a small room. My particular speakers, as you can see here, they drop off. Obviously it's not going to be able to do anything that the speakers can't do, but things like this it can help correct. So I'm going to type in studio monitors, and now I can launch the Systemwide Software. So this is going to sort of give me that frequency response. And there it is, studio monitors, and I can say output Sapphire. So there we go. So before, this is what it looked like, and after, this is what it's sort of simulating. Now there are various things that you can do within the software, things like bass boost and tilt, so you can have it set to kind of boost up the low end, or you can sort of tilt things so that it's maybe a little bit brighter, a little bit softer, things like that. And then you've also got some pre-designed target curves, and these are quite useful sometimes just to experiment with. The X curve is a movie theatre sound target, and so sometimes if I'm doing something where I've dubbed a film together, I might just see how this sounds. It's just a nice kind of little reference. The other thing that it's got, which is quite useful, is a listening spot. Now it turns out that my right speaker was 0.5 decibel quieter than my left speaker. So for me to be right in the center here of my stereo image, and for it to sound like it's right in the center, it's compensating there by boosting the right speaker by 0.5 dB. Now there are various filters here that you can experiment with: linear, phase, mixed, and zero latency. I have it set to zero latency because I want to try and keep that latency as low as possible. Sometimes if I quit the software and reopen it again, I find that actually it's gone back down to say 20 milliseconds, but in general it's really never any lower than about 25 to 30. Now on the left here you can see that I've got monitors 1 and 2, so this is outputs 1 and 2 from my interface are set to my speakers, but then 7 to 8 I've got set to my beyerdynamics. And again, this is a different frequency spectrum which it's been able to pick up there, and again the latency is right there. So you can see there's quite a lot of control there. One thing that it has is this safe headroom thing, and this is to ensure that it's not boosting too much to the point where it's going to start clipping. So you will notice that by having this engaged, your speakers are going to sound quieter than they might normally be. You've also got a little mono switch here, which I guess is quite useful, and you can blend between 0 and 100% wetness if you just sort of want to see what it's doing. Now the way Sonarworks Reference 4 works is it's sort of treated as an output. So by default, when you have it loaded, if I go here into my sound settings, you'll see that we're automatically set to having Sonarworks system-wide as the output. So if I'm playing something in Spotify or on YouTube, anything that uses the kind of system sounds are going to go straight through this. If I switch to Sapphire, you'll notice it sort of automatically pings back to the Sonarworks reference 4. So unless you've sort of quitted it, you're always going to be referencing through the software. Now, I find that if I'm in Logic and I'm playing with a sound, I actually find that it's better to have it routed through my general output. So for this, I have it set to my Sapphire. If I have it set to this, I find it introduces a little bit of latency that doesn't work particularly well for monitoring. So I have it set to this, but it also comes with a plugin. So this is a stereo only plugin, but when I click on it here, it opens and it has, I can have my speakers there, or I can have it set to my headphones. So this is quite a nice way of doing things, and it really is zero latency. The only thing you have to remember is to disable it on the way out. I know there are certain softwares, like I think Cubase and Pro Tools can give you like a little note to say, by the way, Sonarworks is still engaged. This has happened quite a few times where I've exported something out and then realized, oh man, I forgot to disable this, so everyone's sort of listening to it with my speaker profile enabled. Now, something that is quite useful is that you can sort of have something sent to an output. So I've got this instrument track. It's going to my stereo output, which has Sonarworks with my speakers on it. I've also got an output to my headphones here, so I could duplicate this. And then in here, I could have this set to my headphones of choice. And so both me here in the control room versus my artist, my client, whatever, in the live room, we're both going to be able to hear a quote unquote flat signature as a result of this Sonarworks software. So would I recommend this to you, the end consumer? Well, I don't know. It depends really what you're sort of up against. For me in this room, there are certain things that I could do. I've got some acoustic treatment up. I've got various bits of furniture to sort of dampen the sound. But I didn't realize until I had this software just how unbalanced my room was. It did take a little while to get used to, but once you start listening to music through your speakers, I at least sort of adapted to it quite easily. And I'm actually really pleased with how it sounds with this flatter frequency response. And it's also reflected really well on my work with clients, because people have actually noticed mixes sounding even cleaner, or if I've taken it out to the car or listened to something on my phone or something like that, it sounded better all round. Now, this isn't a kind of software that can be used to sort of mimic other pieces of equipment. This is just a correction software. There are bits of software out there. There's a piece of software that I use called Morphit, and I'll link it down below. Relatively inexpensive, but it's a great way of being able to sort of model various different types of speakers if that's the kind of thing you're looking for. For me, I found that it's been great, and for €300, which is the current price on the website, I think it's a pretty good purchase if it means that your production value is going to increase by that much. Now, with the student discount being 50% off, that makes it a really attractive option for people who are maybe looking to get started with this thing. If you're still at college or you're in school or something like that, the only thing to consider is that you can only get the one license with this version. So this isn't the kind of thing that would maybe work very well if you're on multiple systems at a time. You may be worth just buying the full version with that. The only pitfalls I've really had with this piece of software is that occasionally I found that my latency has been incredibly high. Sometimes, I don't know what it is, I don't know if it's something on my system. It's happened on both my laptop and my Mac Mini. Sometimes it will be as much as, say, 300 milliseconds, and all it would take is really just quitting the app and reopening it again. I don't know why that is. To be honest, at the moment, I'm blaming it on Catalina because I'm not sure what the compatibility is there yet. But they are bringing out updates all the time, and it is quite easy to report bugs. So I'm hoping that that issue will resolve itself soon. For the most part, when it works, it's absolutely fantastic. I hope you found this video to be useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done already. Lots of exciting things to come soon. I'd be interested to see what you think of Reference 4. If you've got it or you've got any thoughts about it, please do leave them down in the comments down below. It'd be really useful for anyone who's on the fence about purchasing it. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and thank you for watching.